All right, so let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION this hour. The Sri Lankan Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the 2019 Easter bombings has now recommended that action should be taken against the former president of Sri Lanka, Maithripala Sirisena, and others. Remember, this was a commission of inquiry that was originally set up by Maithripala Sirisena himself. The photographs of the report's conclusions revealed by opposition leader Harin Fernando have shown that the inquiry has recommended that criminal proceedings should be instituted against the former Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena. The inquiry has further noted that Sirisena had departed to India and also to Singapore in the days preceding the deadly terror attack without appointing an acting Minister of Defence, despite knowing full well about the possible threat from perpetrators. In its report, the Commission has also faulted the then Director of State Intelligence Service, Nilantha Jayawardene, of not attaching the weight that he should have attached to the intel reports that had tipped off of a possible threat when he had spoken to former President. Now, among other highlights of the report is a conclusion that based on available evidence, certain officers and authorities are responsible for their failure to predetermine and to prevent these attacks. Now, the Commission of Inquiry was appointed by the former President Maithripala Sirisena himself to investigate into the series of bombings 6 months after the dastardly terror attack. Remember, on the 21st of April back in 2019, Islamist militants had targeted 3 hotels and also 3 churches that resulted in deaths of at least about 267 people and injured 500 others. It had emerged that Indian intelligence agencies had actually tipped off Sri Lanka 17 days beforehand about the risk of these attacks following a tip-off from a suspect. The final report of the Commission of Inquiry was handed over to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in late January this year. All right, now to give us more insights into what this Commission of Inquiry in Sri Lanka actually reveals, we are joined in by Mr. Iqbal Athas, who is a political editor at the Sunday Times, and he's joining us live from Sri Lanka. Mr. Athas, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. Now, we are given to understand that some excerpts of this report of the Commission of Inquiry have actually come into the public domain. What do they speak of?
Well, it did come into the public domain after a copy of the report was handed in to Parliament yesterday. And they're expecting the report to be released officially today to all the parliamentarians. The over 500-page report does make some damning indictments, particularly on former President Maithripala Sirisena for what the Commission calls his acts of omission and commission. They have recommended to the Attorney General that there are criminal proceedings be instituted against him under the country's penal code. They have also made some strictures on the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, as well as a number of other senior officers, including former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando, the Police Chief Pujith Jayasundara, the Chief of National Intelligence Sisira Mendis, and a host of others.
Now, Mr. Athas, this is very interesting. You know, the report needs to be still formally presented to the parliamentarians in Sri Lanka, but according to, the information that is coming out, it says that there needs to be action taken against the former president, Maithripala Sirisena. And what is ironical, that it is Maithripala Sirisena who had actually constituted this commission of inquiry to look into possible lapses that led to this terror attack.
Yes, he did. He did appoint the Commission of Inquiry. He came under a lot of pressure from the Catholic Church, particularly the Archbishop of Colombo, Reverend Malcolm Ranjit. In fact, he was protesting over the non-release of the report, and it is widely believed here that it is his pressure that led to the report being sent to Parliament. And he has also made a declaration that he would not see any politicians until he receives a copy of the report himself.
Right, at this point of time, is there some action that could be taken against the former president, Maithripala Sirisena, considering as to how turbulent politics in Sri Lanka is, and the present dispensation is not on the best of the terms with the previous dispensation?
There's a point in what you say, but one has to bear in mind the fact that the contents of the report are gradually coming into the public domain and all the ramifications are being seen now. In the light of that, when there is a build-up of public opinion, it would be very difficult for the government to back out of such action, because this is one of the pledges they made during the presidential as well as the parliamentary elections.
At this point of time, have you heard any reaction at all by the former president, Maithripala Sirisena, about the contents of this report that have now come into the public domain?
Well, he has not been talking to the media. In fact, calls to his office are going unanswered. But he was in fact present last night at a banquet given by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa to visiting Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Iqbal Atas, for joining us and getting us all those updates. This, of course, is a very crucial story that we will continue to track on WION. Remember, this report has still not been submitted to the Sri Lankan legislature. It is just some parts of this report that's been submitted by the Commission of Inquiry on the terror attacks that took place in 2019 that has now come into the public domain, and we'll of course be tracking this story very closely for us.
WION now available in your country. Download the app and get all the news on the move.